Amid a fast evolving political landscape with more announcements from Trump, there's been no shortage of volatility in the grains and oilseeds market. To talk us through recent market moves and what to watch going forward, I'm joined by Vice President of Clearing and Execution Sales, Bertrand Oesterle. Thank you for joining us, Bertrand. So, deal or no deal, can you please update us on how the grains and oilseeds have recently reacted to Trump's latest announcements?
So to make it very simple, we're back into chaos. So we're close to the 9th of July, which is tomorrow, where the tariffs are supposed to come back on. And it's been a very big mix of announcements from Trump. So he isn't somehow failing to get new deals or important deals, and therefore the tantrums are back. It's tariffs back on for some countries, 25 to 45%. It's extension to the 1st of August for other countries that may have some genuine intention to deal or to get to a tariff announcement or agreement. So it's very much on, off, and it's again back to the chaos of the tariff tantrums. Now, in terms of the complexity, the BRICS have been talking and having a summit of their own. Trump has been reacting. If it's anti-US, then there would be another 10%. If it's not anti-US, the 10% won't apply. So it's very much black and white, grey, 50 shades of grey. We don't know exactly where we're going. The deals have been interesting. We've had a US-Vietnam deal over the past 2 weeks, which the market has taken as slightly bullish for corn. We've seen over the past couple of days a deal between the US and Indonesia. So the details for grains is that Indonesia would pledge to buy some 800,000 tons of wheat for the second half of the year and some 1 million ton of wheat minimum from 2026 to 2030. It sounds juicy, but in a way, they already buy 1 million ton a year. So it's a deal on something that's already almost happening. So we'll have to watch if it's 1 million ton or anything more, and if it creates new demand, especially as Indonesia is saying that they would not impact origins from elsewhere. So to make it simple, we have a deal, market tends to go up. We have more tariffs, markets again tend to go down. So it's a bit of a switch between those countries that are capitulating and those countries which are resisting. And for example, on the resistance side, Brazil was saying that why should they not resist? Why should they not go tit for tat? So we're waiting for what Brazil is going to say. And China continues to forge its web of new relationships. And there's one tiny element which is insignificant in terms of volume, but significant in terms of geopolitics. It's Ethiopia. So we had a tiny piece of news that came out this week saying that Ethiopia will be added to the origin list of import of soybean meal for China. Now, I've been in grains and oilseeds for 20 years. I've never seen Ethiopia being a major player. They produce some 50 to 100,000 tons a year. It's significant in terms of volume, in terms of tonnage, but in terms of geopolitics, it shows that while Trump is failing to get those deals, China is continuing to forge that web of influences.
And then what about Ukraine and Russia? So
Ukraine and Russia is once again a failure for Trump. He came in saying he would stop the war within 1 day, then he changed to 2 weeks. Well, it might be 2 years, who knows. It comes to the point where Trump is now blaming it on Putin, saying that he's disappointed and he's going to give more weapons to Ukraine once again. So we're in a situation where this war is not going to end anytime soon. When we look at Ukraine, the important bit for us has been the development into the EU-Ukraine trade deal. Last week, we were getting some details that were supposed to be reciprocal. We've had more details this week, which are interesting for us. It's 1.3 million tons of wheat quota, which is a way less than the 4.5 to 6.5 million tons we've seen over the past 3 years. And in barley, it's going to be some 450,000 tons of quota, which again is less than the 450 to 900 we've seen over the past 2 years. Ukraine is also currently harvesting. We've seen some disappointment from southern Ukraine in terms of yields, but we need to get to know more. But the rapeseed harvest is ongoing, the wheat harvest is ongoing. It's very early stage, some 280,000 tons of wheat have been harvested, and the new crop exports have also started, which is the interesting bit. Very minimal amounts. We were really at the starting point, some 25,000 tons of wheat, some 34,000 tons of corn. And the big one was the China announcement that they had bought some 700,000 tons of Ukrainian barley. There's also talk in the market that China is potentially looking to buy up to 1 million tons of European barley. So we have to find out whether it's in for or in talks and how much it is. And when we look next door to Russia, we had some very mixed messages once again. So we've got Sovecon privately saying that they feel that the first cuts in Russia are disappointing. And on the other side, we've got the Agricultural Ministry from Russia, which is very reassuring, saying that the dryness in Rostov, the main wheat producing region, is not affecting the overall estimate of production in wheat. And also the untimely rains they've seen in the central regions will not affect production. So they're still keeping a 90 million ton very high mark in terms of wheat production.
And any update about wheat production elsewhere, in particular regarding harvest progress?
So when we look elsewhere, we can look at the report we had yesterday from the USDA on wheat harvest progress in the US. And we're through the halfway mark. We're 53% harvested, and the crop has lost a few percentage points in terms of good to excellent ratings in winter wheat and spring wheat in the US by 3 and 2%. When we look at Europe, Europe is in full harvest mode. The Eastern Europeans, the Poles, the Bulgarians, Romanians, the Croats and Bosniak, for example, are telling us that they are harvesting fast, that it's good quality, that it's a good crop, and we're still hearing that Romania will be a record crop. When we look at Western Europe, the French are harvesting. Agrimet is telling us that it's 11% harvested, 67% good to excellent. The trade is telling us that actually, in their mind, their pace of harvest is actually quicker than the 11% reported. It might be 15 to 30% according to some. We hear some good quality elements in terms of specific weight, still 80 to 83 kilograms per hectoliter in France. The protein levels are around the 10.5 to 11.2% area. Overall, the trade is telling us that we should get around an 11% average, which should match the Euronext requirement. And then when we look at that, we look at the fund position, which is still very short. The euro dollar is still high. So if I take those figures again on the 2nd of April, the December EUR/FX was 109.50. We went up to 119.51. We're currently around the 118.80 mark. So the funds remain short. And that's why we're going to be very interested in Paris over the next 4 to 6 weeks. The option expiry for September is the 15th of August. The funds are supposed to roll. They're short in September. The OI was 302,000 lots yesterday, 302.8 thousand lots today. The SEPDEX spread has rallied from minus 13 and a quarter to minus 9 and a quarter today. It's around the minus 10 as we speak. And so we're going to really much watch that SEPDEX roll to see if the funds come in to roll that September into December, potentially push the SEPDEX up. And that might give an opportunity to some of the traders to look at the DEC March, if it goes along with it, to have an opportunity to sell it, as they've indicated so far that they would want to potentially be on the other side of that roll, but further down the board.
And what about the recent concerns over heat for EU maize?
So very correctly, so as the wheat harvest is quite quickly progressing because it's hot and dry weather, it is a problem for maize, and it continues to be a problem for maize. So we've spoken to our clients in Bulgaria, Romania, Hungary, but also Croatia and Bosnia, for example. They're all saying the same. If it doesn't rain quickly, we could see a 30% loss in output in maize in Eastern Europe. There is some rain in the forecast for the next 5 to 7 days. Is it going to happen? Is it going to be too little or not? We're going to have to watch out. And when we look at Western Europe, yes, it's been very hot last week as well, some 38 to 42% degrees Celsius, I should say. The French conditions reported by Agrimet are still good. And there's some 78% good to excellent. So they've lost 3% compared to last week, and they've lost 7% to a month ago. So we're going to have to watch out what's going on in Europe. And this potential issue comes on top of the potential issue we've spoken about 2 weeks ago with northern China being too wet for corn. And when we look at those two issues, we have to counterbalance them against what's goes very well elsewhere. And the very good news we have on corn from a production point of view are basically Brazil and the US. So Brazil is still harvesting its second corn crop, the safrinha crop. It's about 28 to 30% harvested so far. It's a bit slower than normal, but the estimates are big for the overall crop. We're talking 128 to 136 million tons. And then when we look at the US, we had a report yesterday from the USDA. The conditions are pretty good, 74% good to excellent. It's been raining hot. It's ideal weather so far. The conditions are 1% ahead of last week and they're 10% above the 5-year average. So we've got two elements of issues, Europe, China, two elements of counterbalance, Brazil and the US.
So you just mentioned US corn conditions. What about soybean and oilseeds in general?
So in the US, the soybean conditions are very stable. They're 66% good to excellent. So they're similar to last week and 2 weeks ago. They're still ahead of the 5-year average, 62%. So again, we see that the US are having benign weather and it's going well. And if we look at soybean elsewhere, the Brazilians are telling us that they've exported some 13.4 million tons in June alone. So again, that's a big figure. It's down from the almost 14 million tons of a year ago, but again, it's a big figure. So that's very similarly to corn. The US and Brazil are very present on the bear side. And if we look at the rest of the oilseed complex, the rapeseed harvest is ongoing in Europe. The Ukrainians are telling us that they've started. The Europeans have started as well. We've had a bit of noise about French results. So the French rapeseed harvest is through the halfway mark. The moisture levels are decent. We're being told about 7% on average. And we have had some indications of early oil content testing, which was quite good, over 45%.
And finally, what will you be paying attention to over the week ahead?
So we're going to naturally look at any updates on this maize issue. Are we going to get rain or not in Europe? We're going to continue to watch out for any tariff tantrums or new deal from the US. We'll also look at the spreads I've mentioned in Paris wheat, the SEBDEC as our barometer for the spec position in Paris and how it affects the DEC March. And finally, at the end of the week on the 11th, on Friday, we have a WASD monthly report from the USDA, and that is going to give us a bit of an update as to what the USDA thinks the figures should be. But for the moment, the market is telling us that it shouldn't be a market moving report.
Thank you so much for your insights as always. For more videos like this, please do like and subscribe.